Hey, congratulations, you finally got a buck or you finally got a bull, and now the question is, what do you do with it? Maybe it's not the buck or bull of your dreams and you're not going to do a shoulder mount, but you do want to preserve a trophy, and the question is, how do you do that? Well, today I'm going to show you how to take your buck from looking like this to being a beautiful trophy that you can hang on the wall, and you can do it all at your own house. So stay tuned, I'm going to show you how to do that, to transform this into this so you can hang it on the wall. Alright, the first thing you're going to need to do this is you're going to need a good stock pot. Now you're not going to want to use the one that your wife uses in the kitchen because she will not let you do that, and you'll be sleeping in the doghouse if you do it without her knowing. So what I'm using today is a 24 quart stock pot, and that's just about right for deer and antelope. It's a little bit small for elk, and elk isn't going to sit down in that all the way. But the first thing I like to do is put a little bit of dish soap in there, and that just kind of helps break stuff down a little bit. Then you're going to fill it up with water. Then we'll take it over to the burner. Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about now is water level. So this is really important. What you want to do is you want to have your water level right up here at the base of the horn. You don't want it up in the horns, because if you do that, you're actually going to discolor the horns as this process plays out. And so you're always going to be watching and maintaining your water level to try to keep it right at the base of the horn there. And you got to watch that, because as you do this, you're going to create evaporation and steam, and you're going to be losing water as you do this. So you got to keep it topped off, and you want to keep it right there, right at the base of those horns. Alright, next thing is our burner. So we have a big burner here. I like this one because it allows me to adjust the flame both at the bottle and also here in line. It gives me a little more precise flame than something I could only adjust at the bottle. We're going to go ahead and put this guy on here. And you really don't want it boiling vigorously really fast. What you want is just at the point where it may start to boil, but you're just soaking all of that meat and all of that skin and all of that muscle, and you're letting that break down slowly over several hours. Alright, so here's what we're looking for. We're boiling just a little bit. We're not like vigorously boiling over, but we are boiling. We got the water right at the base of the horns, and or antlers. My kids corrected me. They're antlers, they're not horns. But that's what we're looking for, and we're just going to let that sit for a couple hours and keep topping the water off right at the bottom of the antlers. Alright, this has been going for about 2.5 hours now, so we're going to pull it out, and I'm going to show you how to start picking away at the meat and getting stuff off the bone as quick as we can to speed up this process. Bring this over here. And I usually use a knife and some pliers, and I just start cutting some meat off. If you cut this meat here along this lower jaw line, what you can do is you can actually take the whole lower jaw off fairly easily. I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. I'll go ahead and grab this lower jaw with the pliers. I'll just push down, and that should come right off. Oh, look at that. He was eating when he died. There we go. And just tracing the bone. You want to cut off as much meat as you can. Way. Right, and this next part's kind of important. So right under his nose he's got two nasal bones, and what I do with these is, if they're ready, I'll grab these with my pliers and they'll just slide straight out. Yep, there we go. So you don't want to lose these. These are important. So pull that out. Save those for later. Alright, so we've been picking at this, and we've been going back and forth between picking at it for a while and just trying to get as much meat off as we can and putting it in the water to boil it. We're almost done with this. So one thing I do want to show you guys in slow motion is you've got these little ear holes here. And these are best if you just break them out. It'll let you clean up a lot better. So I just take a screwdriver in there, right in the ear hole, and I break those out. And what that's going to do is that's going to give us a lot better access into the rest of the head to really clean up in all the little crevices and stuff. So clean both of those out. Just kind of jam it in there, break that little tiny bone out, and then that'll give us a lot more access. You'll have a much better product when you're all done. Alright, maybe you're wondering why I'm wearing my brain gear to do this. Well, the reality is there's some hard parts to doing this process. And there's a lot of ways people try to get the brains out of the back of the deer's head and the leftover meat that we still haven't gotten. And some people use coat hangers on a drill, stuff like that. I'm going to show you how to use the Binford Brain Blaster 5400. And it's going to be messy, but it's effective. Alright, so we still got some leftover meat, we even have some brains still in. So I'm going to show you how to do that with the pressure washer. Here is the back of the head where the spinal column actually meets this. This is where you're going to get the brain. Alright, we are ready for the second to the last step. So we've got all the meat off, we've washed it thoroughly, and now we're ready to actually put the peroxide on it. They call it bleaching skulls, you actually use peroxide. So I like to use 50 volume peroxide. You can get this at really any local beauty shop. And then I also use some powder lightener, just some basic white powder lightener. And what we'll do is, and I don't have a whole lot of this left, hopefully we have enough to do this. I'll use everything I have here. And I like the cream, not the liquid. The cream seems to stay in place better. And I use about 2 or 3 scoops of this. And you'll mix that up quite thoroughly. One thing you don't want to do is you don't want to get this on your hands or your clothes or even a countertop. This is super strong and it can actually stain things, burn things. So you don't want to get it on anything. Alright, we got that good and mixed. And the next thing we're going to do is we're actually just going to paint this onto every part of this skull except for the antlers. You don't want to get it on the antlers because it will change the color of those. You just want it on the teeth and the bones. You don't want it on the antlers. Alright, now what you want to do is you want to get some crafting paintbrushes. You want a big paintbrush because you really need to get into all these little nooks and crannies and get this peroxide all over the entire skull. So what you'll do is you'll just start painting it on there. Alright, well we're done painting. Just kidding. Remember those bones that we took out that I told you don't want to lose? We still need to paint those. So don't forget that you want to get these good and covered up. So I'm just going to drop those in there. Mix them up real good. Get those nice and covered. There we go. And set those there. And we're going to let this sit for about 2 hours. 2 hours is usually enough to get that nice and white, and then we'll come back and we'll wash and rinse all of that off with some hot soapy water, and then we'll be done. Alright, well congratulations, you have finally made it to the point where your wife will let you back in the house. So now the last step we have to do is we have to get all of the bleach or the peroxide off of the deer head. So we're just going to stick it in the sink here, and we're going to start hosing it off with warm water. Initially it's not going to look very white, but as the bones dry, it'll whiten up quite a bit. congratulations, you have finally made it to the point where your wife will let you back in the house. So now the last step we have to do is we have to get all of the bleach or the peroxide off of the deer head. So we're just going to stick it in the sink here, and we're going to start hosing it off with warm water. Initially it's not going to look very white, but as the bones dry, it'll whiten up quite a bit. Alright, so our last step is we got to take these nose bones and we have to put them back. Now they will hold if you just slide them back in place. What I've done is I've dried them off with a paper towel, and what I like to do is just put a little dab of super glue on them. That way you don't have to worry about whether they're going to stay or not. And so right here on this little spot right here is where I put the super glue. Again, I'll just put a tiny little dab. You'll never see that. So this goes here, and you'll want to just slide it in so that it goes right back into place, and it'll fit nice and tight right there. Same thing here on the other side. Just a little dab of super glue. Work that back into place. Sometimes they're a little tricky. There it goes. Alright, our nose bones are back in place, and it's done. It's going to dry overnight, and as it dries again, it will get a little whiter, and it's done.